Coming to paperback and e-readers this April, Isis: Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door must take on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis: Revenge of the Cyber Goddess in paperback and e-readers this April. There was another mass shooting in America a couple of days ago. And in this incident, which took place in Bryan, Texas, a 27-year-old man took a firearm to Kent Moore cabinets and wound up shooting several of his co-workers and killing one. And then after getting into a chase with police, he wound up shooting and wounding a Texas state trooper. Now, your 27-year-old Larry Bolin is alleged to have participated in the murder of one of his co-workers and the injury of several others and this Texas state trooper, when it was alleged he wound up participating in that mass shooting at the Kent Cabinet Factory in Bryan, Texas. And police still say that they don't have a motive for your Larry Bolin participating in this mass shooting. But when I take a critical examination of Larry Bolin's actions, they clearly fit the pattern and profile I talk about as related to beta males in my book, The Man Crisis. And when I look at the details of this story, it's looking more and more like Larry Bolin is like one of the textbook beta males I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And I believe that he may have possibly wound up exploding in a rage where he participated in the extreme of the spectrum of violent behaviors. Because oftentimes when it comes down to your beta males, these beta males are simmering and boiling for anger for years before they wind up going out here and participating in their extreme violent behavior. Now, according to some reports, people are saying that your Larry Bolin was a quiet guy and he kept his distance from most of his co-workers. And according to one of the co-workers who was interviewed, as he was firing his gun, he moved past him and shot the guy across from him, clearly showing there might have possibly been some sort of anger he had at the individuals he was targeting. And that is something that is possible when it comes down to a lot of beta males, because a lot of these beta males hold grudges against people, and these people don't even know that this individual is even angry at them. And that could possibly be the case for this mass shooting and the individuals he targeted to try to kill. It could be that your Larry Bolin might have possibly held a grudge against several of those individuals on the job, and as he was holding this grudge against these individuals, he was plotting and planning this mass shooting as a way to get even with all of those individuals, even though none of those individuals knew whatever issue this man had with them. So he might have possibly been holding a grudge against these individuals for years as he worked across them on the line, and maybe he felt like in some way they wound up crossing a line with him personally in that professional workplace. And this is something that happens with a lot of these beta males. A lot of these beta males, you will never know how angry these guys are with you until eventually these guys reach the boiling point, and then they will wind up exploding in this rage. And some guys, it will range from this screaming fit that they will have with you out of nowhere to all the way to winding up wanting to go out here and again participate in an extreme form of violence like a mass shooting. And this person will never know that this person has an issue with them, because the beta male's whole way of coping with their anger is not to try to resolve the conflict in a constructive manner, because most beta males are afraid of conflict. No, their whole thing is to hold their feelings within them, and those feelings, again, they simmer and boil for years, and then eventually they wind up participating in acts of violence that not only are destructive to them, but destructive to others. And it's clear to me that your Larry Boland clearly did not have any critical thinking skills, because if this guy had some critical thinking skills, he would not have gone to this Kent factory with a firearm. He would have tried to resolve whatever issue he had with individuals in private. But again, beta males, because they don't know how to conflict resolve or problem solve, what they do again is simmer and boil in anger, and once they explode in their rage, it's just a mystery to everyone what motivated them to do harm. But what usually motivates them to do harm to others has to do with whatever issues they have with an individual that they have within inside them. And when I again look at this individual, it's clear to me he was just again feeling so much, because he wasn't really thinking about his future. Because at 27 years old, he had his whole life in front of him, and he could have practically lived and built a great life at this company. Unfortunately, because he was so in his feelings about whatever individuals who worked there, he wound up throwing all of that away because he was in his feelings about these individuals. And because he was in his feelings, he wasn't thinking critically about his own future. And now that he has gone out here and sated those angry feelings by participating in this mass shooting, he is sure to be put in prison for the rest of his life for murdering one of his co-workers and going out here and shooting and wounding a state trooper, which right in of itself is a major offense. But this is what beta males do, because beta males don't think critically about their actions. They go out here and participate in these extreme acts of violence because they're feeling about something, but they don't really think about the impact of the consequences of their actions. They're just so busy seething with rage, and they want to sate that rage that's inside of them, that they never really sit down and really think about the long-term consequences of their actions. And the long-term consequences of Larry Boland's actions at 27 are going to be with him for the rest of his life. And he'll probably be thinking about the great life he threw away working a great job like at Kentmore Cabinets when he's in prison in a couple of months, and Bubba and Tiny are turning that tight end into a wide receiver, and they're trading that booty for some Little Debbie snack cakes or some ramen noodles, especially the shrimp flavor. That's the final fate of a beta male when they go out here and participate in a mass shooting, and they wind up getting apprehended by law enforcement. Because when you go out here and you go out here talking about you want to sate your feelings for the moment, it can wind up destroying your life for a lifetime. And that's something many beta males who are in their feelings about whatever minor grudge they have on the job with an individual don't really think about until they are put inside of the penitentiary and the prison system for the rest of their life, and they're in the jail cell with Bubba and Tiny, and they're trading that booty for that fudge round, and then they're looking at themselves and going, my life has been dropped down to the value of a 50-cent cake. And the reason why their life has been dropped down to the value of the 50-cent cake in exchange for some booty is because these guys were not really thinking critically about their future. They weren't thinking critically about their safety, and they weren't thinking about their own lives, and they weren't thinking about the most important intangible as related to their lives, which is their freedom. Because again, when you are a beta male and you are in your feelings, you're not thinking about more important aspects to your life, things like the intangibles of manhood, like your dignity, your self-respect, your self-worth, and most importantly, your freedom. Because if this man had thought about his freedom, he would have taken a minute to stop feeling and start thinking. And had he been thinking critically, he would have thought that there are more important things to his life than getting into it with people at work. Because yes, there are people who you will have problems with at work, but they are not worth sacrificing your freedom for. And this is something beta males don't understand. They just get caught up in their anger about a situation, and they get caught up in the short term, but they never really think about the long term. Now, this incident in Bryan, Texas was one of two mass shootings in last week. And this one was really, again, one that was really interesting to me, because it seems like the mainstream media wanted to try to downplay all of the aspects and details of this story, where in contrast, on the case of the NFL player who wound up murdering people in South Carolina, they practically found every detail of the story. And that is, again, showing me there's a difference between the way they're covering these mass shootings in black and white, and a new trend, as I've seen as related to the Colorado mass shooting. People are trying to bury the details of these stories, especially as related to these white male and foreign mass shooters in comparison to black male mass shooters. But all of these mass shooters are fitting a pattern and profile that I describe in my book, The Man Crisis, and all of these mass shooters are all fitting into this pattern of behavior. And it's looking like I had stated earlier in my video to tell people to keep their head on a swivel. These incidents are getting worse, and they are increasing in frequency. I mean, we've had multiple mass shootings in the last couple of weeks, and we've gotten this increase in mass shootings in the last couple of weeks, I believe primarily because, partially due to the lockdowns of the COVID-19 pandemic, we've had numerous people who have been sitting in their homes for extended periods of time, and as their idle minds have been sitting around and they've been listening to conspiracy theories online and imbibing all sorts of content, a lot of these idle minds are coming out to do the devil's work. And these men, again, they're simmering and boiling in anger. The weather is warm. They're coming outside, and some of them are out here looking to get attention through these acts of violence. And this is the main reason why I'm telling everybody, again, keep your head on a swivel, because we are in, as I call it, the season of the simp. And there's a lot of these guys out here, and it's practically like a minefield out here. And it's not a matter of if these guys are going to go off and do harm to others. It's a matter of when, and it's a matter of you understanding how dangerous it is, so you can avoid stepping on a landmine and understanding where the danger is. So there's a lot of danger out here, and I believe it's going to be a long, hot summer, because America refuses to acknowledge the man crisis in this country. They refuse to acknowledge the gravity of the man crisis in the United States. And until America acknowledges that how bad this man crisis is, we're going to continue to see these incidents. And you have many in government saying that we need gun control laws in order to stop these mass shootings. But no, we've had legislation on the books for years. I mean, in the 1990s, we had an assault weapons ban, and that assault weapons ban, during that time, we had an increase in mass shootings, and that really proves that with the continuing frequency of these mass shootings, that it's not the guns that are killing people, it is a bunch of beta males who have been raised in a dysfunctional fashion who believe they are justified in murdering people because these men have not been taught proper male life skills, proper male survival skills, and proper coping skills. and because these men don't know how to cope with the harshness of the real world as it relates to men, these men are exploding in rage and looking to destroy the world around them, and they believe that they are justified in destroying the world around them because they really can't get their life to go the way they want it to go. So here in America, people really don't want to talk about the man crisis, and they don't want to talk about the man crisis because it's pointing a finger at the women and the way they raise children. It's pointing a finger at a certain political party that created certain policies, and it's pointing fingers at America, and Americans don't want to deal with the accountability to it. So they would rather talk about gun control laws instead of talking about the man crisis, because clearly there's something wrong with the way we're raising boys, because we're getting more and more men who are going out here and participating in these extreme acts of violence, and the increasing frequency of these acts of violence. Now, if you want to learn more about why males like this participate in the kind of behavior that they do, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more men's issues videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. The man who rules the world breaks in a brand new partner to help him take care of business in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Taking Care of Business at paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.